All right, welcome everyone. It's Anna Runyon, founder and CEO of Classy Career Girl, and welcome to today where I get to introduce you to someone who has made a very inspiring career transition. And that's our focus for this month. It's really about hearing stories, getting inspired by others who have made the leap and transition into something more fulfilling. Many of you also want to make an impact with your career as well, and that's why I've invited Amy to come on our show today. Amy began teaching full-time in Canada and quickly realized that she wanted to connect what she was doing inside the classroom with her passion for traveling and helping others outside of the classroom. Soon afterwards, she started an organization called World Teacher Aid, and today World Teacher Aid has constructed 8 complete schools with a total of 40 classrooms, providing daily education for over 3,000 students. And that number may have been growing too. You'll have to let me know what the latest numbers are. But if you've been around our community lately, you know this week we're raising money through our business class to build a classroom in Kenya, and all proceeds go directly to World Teacher Aid. So if you're interested in that, shout out to Raven on my team. She's going to be sharing the link to that right below this video as well. But I'm really excited to dive into your story, Amy. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. So tell us about your transition. What was that like, making that decision to transition from teaching into starting your own organization?
Yeah, well, it didn't come right away. I've always known that I have this passion for helping others, but traveling and something like that. So it kind of started where I dabbled in a few projects while I was teaching full-time. And then it slowly began to consume more of my time and others, but traveling and oh, an echo back. But so now I do work full time, but to be honest, I'm still on a teaching leave. It's been hard for me to make. It's been an easy transition, but from a personal kind of standpoint, I pride myself on that I've been a teacher and that it's all that I've done. But now I'm an entrepreneur, so I still have that. I'm still kind of holding on to my position, but I know in my head, and everyone else around me knows that like I've moved over. But I think it's because I don't take a salary from my position in the charity. So being an independent woman, it's been a bit of an internal struggle to leave my teaching and transition over that way. But I think once you find what you really love to do, I couldn't imagine myself going back now, because what I've been able to do and help other countries, it's been awesome. But it definitely started small and then grown to what it is today.
I think it's important to talk about that too, because everyone's struggling with that like mindset and the decision and like what they should do next too. So what was that decision like to move forward with this?
It was kind of like maybe like a bit of a relief, because I think when you kind of make that decision and you know it, like other doors and opportunities open. Like for a while there, I was part-time teaching and part-time working on the charity, but then I never had enough time to focus fully on the charity. But as soon as I did kind of close the door from teaching full-time and put all of my energy to the charity itself, it grew. I mean, because you have the time and you have more resources to be able to grow, and you're not kind of still doing something on the side. So I think when you make that decision, definitely more opportunity comes your way, and you open more doors that I think remain closed until you kind of leave that or make that move forward.
Yeah, no, the same exact thing happened to me too. Like once you've made that commitment to that you're going to like leave that job and move into something else, so many more opportunities come too. So I can only imagine opportunities that came when you started saying you're going to do this too. Did people think you were crazy?
Kind of, but you know what? It's funny, as I visit with some old friends, a lot of them say the writing was always on the wall, and every time I left, because to like rewind a little, I was full-time and then I had my daughter and I went back again full-time, and then had Sam, who we adopted from South Africa. And then I've never been back since. And when I was packing up for my last leave with Sam, one of my really good friends, she's like, this time it's different. Like I feel like you're really leaving this time. Like, and I'm like, oh, no, I don't think so. I'll be back. And she's like, no, she's like, it's different now. I can see it. And it's funny how you kind of have this internal struggle, but then I think everybody else, or whether it's your husband or really good friends, kind of see it before you do, or before you're willing to accept that that is the direction you're going. So, I mean, it's true that last day I packed up everything out of a space where I was storing things, and I could have left stuff there, but I had this inner, I think, no, let's just take it all out. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I did. And as soon as I did that, it's kind of blossomed into what it is today.
I love that. Like your confidence grew, and it sounds like you kind of like figured out your purpose and your path. And it was just kind of like, other people could see it, but you may not still have seen it.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me that, I mean, that they know. And I'm always like, well, how did you know? Like, because early on, I didn't really know. Like, I was just dabbling and stuff and traveling a lot and helping where I could. But my one friend was like, no, she's like, I've always known you're not going to stay in teaching forever. And I think those entrepreneurs like ourselves, people often do see it before we do. So, yeah.
So we have many women in our group who want to break free from their day jobs and start a nonprofit. Can you give them some advice? Like what should they know before they do that?
Yeah, well, definitely. I'll never forget when I started our charity, and I found a lawyer in Toronto, and I said, what do I have to do to start a charity, and all of these questions. And he said, number one thing he said to me was like, are you fully committed to it? And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, because you could do a foundation. And in Canada, with a foundation, there's less you still have to be responsible, but less responsibility in board members and receipting and all the corporation kind of stuff that comes with a charity. So he's like, if you're still committed but don't have that much time to invest in it, a foundation route is also an opportunity for women that maybe still have the urge to give or organize, but it's not as much kind of paperwork and all the logistics that a charity is for receipting and all that stuff. So I don't know in the US or how it works in the US, but in Canada, it's either you start a foundation or a charity. And I'll never forget, he's like, are you committed to that? Do you know? I'm like, yes. And then I actually spoke to him, it was the last week for something we're doing. And he's like, wow, he's like, it's good that you're committed, because I mean, it's just expenses too that come with running a charity, or, your bookkeeping and all of that stuff too. So definitely know if you're not. And the other thing I would say is dabble in other people's kind of organizations first before kind of going your own route, just to get ideas and see if you really like it. Because I know, like, sometimes you have an idea and then it seems really good, and then you get into it and you realize maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, but you want to alter it a little bit. Because when we started our charity, we really wanted to, like everybody, like help everyone, health, education, like all these pockets that needed help when we first went to Africa. And then we kind of went with another organization and helped in different spots. But that's when I realized, like, well, our schools need to come first. And then we just focus really on the growth of our school in those communities, and not so much health. And even though that's all important, but you have a greater impact when you focus on the one thing versus lots of things.
No, I think that's such a great point for careers and for businesses, especially, it's like you focus on helping one person's problem. And I started the same way too, like focusing on one thing rather than like trying to do everything. So it's the same way for you too, figuring out that education needed to come first as well.
Yeah, and then I think you build stronger relationships with the people that you're working with, and the whole thing is just better. You're not putting a Band-Aid on things. You're really kind of making a big impact in that one spot.
Love it. So tell us the story of what made you start World Teacher Aid, like, and the impact that it's made since starting it.
Yeah, so I'm probably aging myself now, I don't know. But years ago, there was this show on TV called, Oprah's Big Give. And Oprah had this show, and she'd basically go around and just give things. And I'm like, Stu, I said to my husband, I'm like, I really want to do that. But I don't want to do it in North America. Like, I want to go beyond and like do the same concept but somewhere else. So this, I'll never forget, it was like, this is a constant argument whenever we kind of talk about how we started the charity, but I think it's November. He thinks I told him in December. But the point is, I was teaching then, and the only time you have off is Christmas. So I think November. My husband thinks I told him in December. But regardless, I'm like, okay, you're a business guy. You have your own business. You raise the money, and I'll organize all the details and sort everything out. And he's like, so when do you want to do it? And I'm like, well, Christmas. I'm like, I don't have any of the time. And the teacher, like, you have 2 weeks at Christmas, and that's the only time I can go. So you can't even take time off, right, for stuff like that. And he's like, okay, so that's in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't work your magic. But anyway, it's crazy because we both managed to pull together a webinar at that time. And we interviewed like 5 or 6 of the top kind of internet marketing gurus in the community. And they all donated their time by saying, I think it was yearly predictions. So what they thought was going to happen the following year in terms of internet marketing and trends and things like that. And so all these people donated their time, and then people paid money to listen to them. And then we raised money, and we raised like $14,000. We raised a lot of money, and it blew me away like in 2 days to raise that much money. So then we took it down to El Salvador, not literally cash, but had our like visa, and we ended up buying a photocopier for a school up on like this mountain that needed different things, and we painted it. We went to an orphanage and helped kids there, and it was on the way back from that trip that my husband was like, okay, I get kind of what you want to do. And then like we kind of went forward, and we did it again the following year, and we ended up raising like over 40,000. And at that time we were kind of running things through my husband's business and paying taxes on it. And we're like, we can't keep doing that. We need to start our own charity. And that's kind of, as it grew, we then put in the papers to begin the charity process and starting our own thing. So yeah, it's kind of grown over the time, but it's been fun.
I love it. So we have a similar story because I started my blog and I kept doing it. My husband wasn't totally on board either but I think the similarity is we just kept focusing and kept going forward, even though they thought, they didn't exactly know what we're doing. But then now John works with me too. Like we're like doing this together, and same with you guys running your charity. But that's what I love, the story of just like not worrying about what anyone else thinks, but you still have that like drive, and you just keep, and you booked the trip, and you just went and did it.
Yeah, you have to do it, I think, because if you really don't at least put one foot forward or try something, like everything will stay the same. Like nothing's gonna come like out and be given to you on a plate. Like you gotta at least take some action to make your dreams happen or make them come true.
So how did you first make connections with the people over there, and then you made a transition to the education over in Kenya?
Yeah, so I'm like one of those crazy travelers that I'm on like my trip, and I'm always got 3 more trips planned out, or I'm an obsessed traveler. Like I love it. And I taught a lot of English overseas and directed different language schools and volunteered in a Thai community and lived with a Thai family for like 6 weeks and volunteered in refugee camps, like you name it, like I love it. And so when I was in some of those communities around the world, you really see how far a dollar goes and how much of a difference $1 can mean, not only to the person, but to that community or to that family. And it was kind of there that I kind of started thinking about World Teacher Aid or doing my own thing. But that's where I started to make relationships. So when I started the charity, I reached out to an organization I'd volunteered with previously, and they helped kind of put me in touch with the right people to work with or get to know through their connections. So I kind of piggybacked off some people that they knew, and then our relationship now has grown, definitely in Kenya, obviously, for our programs. But getting to know them and working with them has been awesome, but it came through connections that other people had made as well, and then recommendations.
The networking. Yeah, we talk a lot about networking here. So I'm glad that you touched on that too, of just asking people for introductions too, and it just see what it can do.
Well, it's crazy to me because you never really know who knows somebody, or just people that know people that want to do the same thing or want to help. So it was great when this one organization put us in touch with Irene, who we work with now in Kenya. And they said, you guys have similar things you're trying to do. You should talk to Irene. And now, I've literally sent Irene millions of dollars, and she sends me back a spreadsheet down to the penny of like where all of our money goes. But building those relationships are so key for anything really, but for a charity, when you're sending so much money overseas, like finding that person that you can totally trust. It's hard, but definitely you find it. And I'm glad we did with Irene for sure.
So did I have the numbers right? A total of 40 classrooms providing daily education for 3,000 students?
Yeah, you're good. We're actually by the end of the year, we'll have 11 schools. So we're just finishing 3 now. And the one, yes, you'll be seeing one of those schools very shortly.
I'll be going there in October to Kenya. So, and that leads into a really good point, because it's kind of what we're doing right here. We're building a classroom and raising the funds to do it. But what I know, you've seen like really amazing professionals and entrepreneurs and even teachers like doing really awesome projects to make a bigger impact with their careers and with their businesses. And I think that's what everyone's looking for. Like, it's not just like a paycheck. It's not just a day-to-day thing. Like, what are some examples you've seen of people, raising money and making a bigger impact?
Yeah. Well, for our people that have raised money for World Tea Trade, then people like yourself and what you're doing, I've seen at events. We speak at a lot of events, so we'll talk about the charity and just share like our stories there that raises some money. But it also, the person that's leading the conference has, all that has strong connection to what we're doing. So it's inspiring to see somebody, that have thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers that are, sharing that vision of giving back and helping more on a regular basis. We've had, a friend and I, we did a rickshaw run through India, Carrie, who's on our board, to raise money, which is crazy. So, there's lots of creative ways to raise money, to have an impact. And oftentimes for people, it's about being around that community. Do you know what I mean? Of people that are doing different things to raise money, and not necessarily you giving large amounts. It's just being in that community. It's kind of contagious because they all have such great attitudes and they're all supportive, and being around a group of people like that is really inspiring. So that's why.
Yeah, definitely. So do you have any last words of wisdom to someone who's thinking of starting a nonprofit, or even just making a leap into a career that has a bigger impact?
Yeah, definitely do it. And don't, I know it's a lot of people like, oh, maybe like next year or this year. Definitely like take some action, whether it's like a tiny step or even talking to somebody about it, or like, don't ever lose sight of it. And I know, because I'm a mom like yourself and a lot of moms out there. Being a mom's hard. It's not easy. I think parenting is the hardest job in the whole wide world. But like, oftentimes we have kids and like life gets really crazy. But I think you still have to make sure that you take that time for yourself and realize that there might be something in there that you want to do, and, get to nurture that, and maybe every few weeks recognize that and see how you can take action on it. Because I just would hate to see somebody years down the road, have their regrets for, I wish I had done something. But at least if you start talking to people or getting around people that have the same like-minded community, long story short, take action or do something for sure.
And I think it's a great example because this, you started, what year did you start it? I see
like 2007, 6. It took us a year and a half in Canada to get charitable status. It takes forever to get it, but it takes that took quite a long time. But before that, we were doing our trips and kind of talking to people that are in the communities and traveling to different places. So I think they all build on each other.
That's what I see through your whole story. And I saw you and Stu at Tribe Live when you guys were on stage too. And it just, what I took away is just how it's a bunch of little baby steps and like taking action and moving forward and like not giving up. Because after a year of not getting status, charitable status, some people would have just been like, okay, that's not going to happen. But
I swear, I would, every time I would speak to someone, I would get their name and I would write a journal, and then I would call back and I would say, well, excuse me, I spoke to Harry at 2:30 on Friday, September 15th. They said this. Can you give me an update on my status for this? And so I wrote everything down to kind of not be shunned off, or not, that's the wrong word, but just to oh no, we're because they get thousands of applications at a time. So there's always, it's in process. But I was always so what does that mean? What's happening right now on my application? I think at the end, my husband's I think they just didn't want to talk to you anymore because you were so annoying because you kept calling.
But it's a great reminder for everyone, whether you're applying for a job or whether you're applying for a nonprofit, charitable status, you just have to keep following up and like not giving up to it.
No, and I think we all know, like in our heart, or you have a gut feel of something that you're looking for, and you just have to explore it and kind of and stick to it, because the things that often take the longest are worth it in the long run.
Exactly. I love that. What a great place to end. So if you guys want to join me in supporting World Teacher Aid this week, we have just come out with our business class to build a classroom in Kenya. And I've brought together my bookkeeper, my CPA, my lawyer, my Facebook ads girl, like everyone to come together, and also our corporate rescue plan members. 21 of our corporate rescue plan members have created resources and worksheets to go into the course too. So it's like way beyond anything I could ever do myself, and it's $7. You guys can join at www.classycareergirl.com/Kenya Classroom. So hopefully you will join us and supporting building a classroom. So Amy, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.